Yo, what's up, YouTubers? Welcome to episode 35. We were just talking about that before we went on air. We're already at 35 episodes of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. We're just getting set up. There's Christian there. Christian, say hello.
Hello.
There you go. I got on my American Outlaw shirt going to the U.S. versus Jamaica Gold Cup final tomorrow. I also got on my Men in Blazers American States United scarf that they put out a couple years ago. So that's my scarf for this week. Christian, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Dave. I'm going to be at the Union game tomorrow. And fun fact, at least one Union player is going to walk away with a Gold Cup.
Very true. Very true. That is fun. And hopefully we get that fun little tidbit on the podcast as well. So, Christian, if you're good to go, I'll start going into our audio portion here.
I am good to go. I can't wait to talk about Bros Talking Soccer this week. I can't wait.
I know. Yeah. All right. Yeah, quiet over there. All right. What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast, brought to you by Fan Futsal. My name is Dave Canitto, and I'm here with just my brother Christian again this week to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Matt is working night shifts for his job, so we weren't able to get him again this week. Hopefully he will be back next week. But Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Dave. I want everyone to not worry. Matt is not ill or injured in any way. We're not keeping him in the basement anymore. He's good. He's just working, 16-hour shifts in the middle of the night now?
Yeah, we just keep him tied up. We give him water and food, but he's got a little bit more range of motion. So, yeah, he's doing okay.
He's like the guy from the Goonies. We throw candy bars at him.
Exactly. Yep, about that. Christian, how's living on your own outside of mom and dad's? You got your own apartment. How's it going?
It is so relaxing and nice. I love every second of it.
I am glad to hear that. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I forgot to bring this up last week. I was in Tahoe a couple weekends ago, Lake Tahoe, California. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoyed that. So I just wanted to get that out there. And I'm excited for the Gold Cup final tomorrow. I'm going to be there in person in the American Outlaws. So really excited for that.
Yeah,
Christian?
I'll be at the Union game, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be watching our boys without Pontius and Blake, but I'll be rooting for one of them. Well, obviously I'm rooting for Pontius, but at least one of them is walking away with the Gold Cup, so they'll represent the blue and gold.
Very true, because we do not have a lot to celebrate with the Union at this point. So with that, Christian, do you want to talk to us or throw out our trivia question for this week?
I would love to throw out the trivia question this week, Dave. Thanks for bringing it up. So my question is in relation to transfer fees, because why not in silly season? So my question is, of the top 20 transfer fees that have ever happened, okay, how many nations have been represented in there?
Oh, okay. I like that one. Okay, listeners, so we're all going to think over that question as we
Sorry, I just got a call.
No worries. I was wondering what happened to you there. We're going to think over the answer to that, and you think over the answers as well. I'll give my guess at the end, and Christian will reveal the correct answer. So with that, let's get into our segments, but let me first tell you about Fan Futsal. What is Fan Futsal, you may be wondering? Well, Fan Futsal is a different fantasy soccer experience where you select 5 clubs instead of 8 to 11 individual players for your weekly fantasy teams. You then arrange these clubs into a formation and give them positions which emphasize different scoring attributes. The only fantasy scoring elements are goals scored, goals conceded, and the result of the match. It's that simple. Pick 5 teams, complete your lineup, then sit back and follow match scores to see how you're doing. We have MLS games going on right now, as well as Liga MX, that's back. And we're going to have Big 5 European leagues start up again in August. It's different than any fantasy soccer game you've played before, and since the games are weekly, there's no long commitment. If you like soccer, you're going to like Fan Futsal. It only takes a few seconds to sign up, so join now and start playing at Fan Futsal, FANFUTSAL.com today. Okay, and we've already mentioned the Gold Cup, so let's get into our first topic here, which is about the Gold Cup. And in the U.S. men's national team's quarterfinal match against El Salvador, Josie Altidore and Omar Gonzalez were each bitten by different players. Josie Altidore had his nipple twisted on a corner, and Jordan Morris was punched/slapped in the stomach. El Salvador players were suspended 6 and 3 matches. Christian, was that suspension sufficient enough?
I mean, I don't know about these guys. I don't know if they've had incidents like this before, but when Suarez did it, I know he did it on maybe a slightly bigger stage.
Which time?
I would say.
Because Suarez did it 3 times.
But he got banned from all soccer-related activities for months. And honestly, I think that should be the punishment for biting in any circumstance. You really have to cut it out, and I don't understand what goes through somebody's mind on a soccer field or any time in their life when you will think, hey, I guess I should bite this guy now. Why? How is that? I guess it might be a cultural thing, but I will never understand it.
I think it's doing anything to get under the skin of the opponent and trying to provoke a reaction. Literally, yeah, literally. Wow, yeah. We're a big pun podcast here, and that was intended. I think it was provocative by El Salvador, and I am incredibly surprised and proud of how the U.S. just handled it. Like, I don't know how there were no punches thrown or more shoving matches. I know there were a couple altercations, but for the most part, the U.S. really kept a cool head, and that is incredible from my perspective. I'm also on board with you that the suspensions need to be longer.
And I think it's absolutely disgusting the way they handled that game as a whole. I feel like they were coming in to injure players and tackles, and I was watching the game live. I was at the game. It was terrible, and I don't know what happened, but I'm going to bring this up.
Okay.
In the stands, these guys were walking out, and all the El Salvador fans were throwing their beers on these guys. They were all like trying to attack them. It was ridiculous the way that they were reacting in the stands. And I mean, I'm sure this guy was not innocent in what happened. He probably was giving them the finger on the way out, yelling stuff. But why? I mean, I was with guys who were more upset about the fact that they were wasting beer than they were actually throwing at the guys.
Yeah, so that's another incident of El Salvador not exactly covering themselves in glory. They had the match-fixing scandal a couple years ago where 14 players were banned for life, and so this is just, indicative of maybe a broader thing that they need to look at culturally for their nation. What do you think needs to be done to stop this? Is it just suspensions? Do you think VAR is going to eliminate this? What are your thoughts on trying to prevent this from happening again?
VAR, I think, will have an impact on this because there's going to be people watching for these types of incidents now. But I think that more heavy suspensions are going to absolutely have to exist if you're going to cut it out of the game completely. Just a red card, maybe 2 or 3 games ban, that is not enough. And even on the international stage, 3 games can be a long time, depending on when it is, but it's still not enough. 6 games in international play that could be half a year for a team like El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, no, that's not enough. You need to punish him for longer than that. And he should be banned for more than just international play. He should be banned from his club team or even the way Suarez was banned. He was not allowed to touch a pitch with any other professionals.
I like it. I like that. I like that thought. Real quick, what are your predictions, switching gears, for the Gold Cup final? Do you have a prediction? Score and result.
All right. I think USA win, and it's going to be 2-0.
Okay. I think 2-1. I don't have a ton of confidence in the defense. I think
Howard's been outstanding so far, even though he hasn't had much to do. Even every time he's been called upon. My concern is getting the ball past Andre Blake, who's probably been the best goalkeeper in the tournament so far.
He's definitely been the best goalkeeper in the tournament. Yeah, he's been fantastic. I have a ton of faith in Howard. I don't have a faith in some of the defenders, especially the speed that Jamaica has. I think that the U.S. will get hit for at least one, but I think it's going to be tough to beat Andre. My prediction's 2-1 USA.
Okay.
Okay, let's stick in MLS, but well, not stick in MLS, but let's go to MLS and talk about a recent tweet from Taylor Twellman, who reported that Chicharito was in discussions with MLS about a possible transfer this summer before he signed in England for West Ham. And Twellman was reporting that Chicharito was demanding $8 to $9 million net in salary, so that's about $14 to $18 million gross salary. Sounds like a lot of money. Christian, is Chicharito worth the amount that he was asking for from the league?
No. As a player, no. As a media ploy, possibly yes. He is still in probably what is his prime of his career, and he would bring the whole entire Mexican, not that Mexican population isn't already a huge, I feel like, supporter of American soccer. A lot of them in the South, I feel like, are support. I know they're not huge. I know they really support League MX, but
exactly, yeah. But
I still believe that they do watch MLS and they can get on board with going to soccer games. I think having him here would even more greatly impact Mexicans supporting MLS teams, and they already got Gio dos Santos. I think he made an impact when he first came over, and
his brother just signed today for LA Galaxy. It was reported. Jonathan dos Santos.
Jonathan dos Santos signed for LA Galaxy.
$5 million reported by Ives Galarcep for Goal.com.
That is shocking that he was only $5 million.
Yeah.
He was at Barca 2 years ago.
So was Gio at some point. But yeah. So a lot of the Mexican fans and media aren't happy about that. But anyways, getting back to Chicharito discussion, I think you're spot on. I think as a player, he's not worth that. But as a marketing chip, I think he would absolutely be worth that amount of money. As crazy as that is, my biggest concern with him coming here is throwing at that salary range, is throwing MLS DP salary structures completely out of whack. That would be more than double the highest paid player in MLS right now. So Kaká, I think, is the highest paid player, around $7 million gross in annual salary. So this would be more than double. And I think that would just set a dangerous precedent of possibly overpaying for other types of players and other players using that as a negotiating thing. And I don't know if MLS is quite ready to start paying $10+ million in salary for some of the players. So that would be my only concern. But in a vacuum, outside of throwing the other kind of salary mechanisms out of whack, I think he would be absolutely worth that, because MLS would make that back hand over foot with targeting Mexican and Mexican Americans. Anything else to add?
I agree with that, and I think we need players like him who are in that age group and on that stage currently, who are going to make an impact in the league with their quality, and who might not be the highest superstars, but are going to add to the overall play.
Agreed. All right, let's get on to another topic related to MLS. And this was a big one. At least it was a huge media story yesterday, July 24th, so Monday. Sports Business Journal reported that Ricardo Silva, who is the owner of Miami FC in NASL, gave a presentation to MLS owners at a meeting in June where he proposed a $4 billion media rights deal for MLS. It would be over 10 years, and it would be the exclusive rights to all of MLS media globally. Current media rights deal is about $90 million a year, so this would be $400 million a year, so 3.5 times the current deal or so. And the current deal expires in 2022, so this would start in 2023 and go to 2032. I can't believe I'm saying those years. I can't believe we're even close to those years. That's just hitting me right now. MLS rejected this proposal. Biggest talking point is that the proposal required MLS to institute some form of promotion and relegation, though some of the details are still being reported and ironed out. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. A couple of caveats here, just providing a little bit more context for any of the listeners out there. Silva commissioned a Deloitte study last year to highlight potential benefits of a promotion and relegation system. So he's clearly got a vested interest, being a Division II owner, in having promotion and relegation. Also, MLS legally can't negotiate right now, so their current deal expires in 2022, and I think negotiations open in 2021 or 2022, and their existing partners need to have first rights. That's that's how the contract is worded. And also the proposal, like I said, was for worldwide media rights that Silva's group would then sell to television companies or internet companies or whatever the heck, people are watching soccer on in the future. Christian, what were your thoughts on hearing this deal, and where do you stand on this?
Well, I think that money is insanity, but to be completely honest, in 7 years, with the way soccer money is going, it might not even be that much. And who knows how the league is going to grow over the next couple of years. I don't think it's going to explode. But by 2030, who knows what kind of stars we might be getting in the MLS. It's hard to tell. And it was surprising to me how quickly they just turned it down. But the way you were just describing it, that they cannot negotiate, it makes more sense now. But still, I don't know if I've always been on board with the promotion relegation, but I know for a fact it would never work in the U.S. because fans are too fickle and would give up on their teams 100%.
Well, no,
if they were relegated.
You can't say definite and 100% that would happen.
100% that would happen. Not in every market, but it would happen in most markets in the U.S.
I don't know if it would happen in most markets. So I think those are sweeping generalizations that's kind of the mindset. But the problem with it is there's no foundation for soccer right now. The oldest teams in the league the oldest teams in American soccer generally stretch back to the 70s. And even those teams had breaks in the 80s and 90s where they weren't playing. And so most clubs that exist nowadays kind of have roots in the 90s and the aughts and then the teens of the 2000s. So there's no foundation. And so if you need to have generational kind of support for clubs to sustain relegation. So that's my biggest concern. The other thing that I want to just mention is that the $90 million that I mentioned in the current deal is for domestic television rights. That doesn't include global rights. So MLS still has negotiated contracts with Africa, with Asia. I think it's on in over 150 countries. So they have deals with television partners all over the world that aren't necessarily reported on numbers. So when I said, and I'm just putting this together in my head, when I said the current deal is the proposed $400 million a year is 4 times the current deal, that's not factoring in, overseas and global rights. So there's that to keep in mind too.
Yeah, I know that's true. I don't really know how much they're making worldwide, and I don't know if there is a figure for us to really pull, and we're kind of talking in generic terms right now because we don't have those figures. But ESPN is the main one right now, right?
It's more Fox, but yeah, ESPN and Fox have a joint deal.
Yeah, so those are 2 of the biggest networks probably in the U.S. So it's not going to hurt for them to continue to control it. And I think they need to maybe force MLS to be more prevalent on their channels. They have a lot of channels between them, and I think it should be televised more. So having someone come in and compete with them might encourage them to do that.
It's a chicken and egg thing, though. So ESPN and Fox argue that MLS product and interest by fans isn't big enough to warrant being on television more and being on more prominent channels. And MLS's argument is we can't grow our popularity and interest until we're on these channels. And so eventually someone needs to step up and do something like NBC Sports did with the English Premier League, where they just committed to, we're going to put on as many games as possible. We're going to maintain time slots so when it's on. We're going to cover before and after the matches. We're going to build up the narratives. That has never happened in American soccer, and it's crazy to me to think that a league like the English Premier League has done that, and we can't even do that with our own domestic league. So that's kind of the biggest frustration from my standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like more people are interested in the Premier League, but that is because of that.
Exactly.
It's hard to tell. Like, maybe if we had that coming for us and we were able to get invested the way that NBC has made interested in the Premier League, that would
help. Yeah. So sorry, you audio paused a little bit there. So getting back to the topic at hand, which I think a lot of people focused on. I talked more about the economic benefits, but a lot of people focus on the pro-rel, promotion and relegation sort of piece of it. I know you think it's not going to happen. I personally think that it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to involve MLS, but there's going to be somebody out there to try promotion and relegation, whether it's with NASL. There's a rumored third division that someone named Peter Wilt is working on, and then incorporating into the NPSL. I'm really curious to see how that all pans out, and if this money, which a lot of people are kind of throwing around that this was never even actually a real proposal. He knew that he couldn't negotiate with these people, and he's kind of using it as, see, MLS didn't want to negotiate with us, so we have to put our money elsewhere. And if they legitimately were to invest this in the infrastructure of the lower leagues and seriously build up a fourth, third, second division to rival MLS, because I'd be really curious of it, because all the standards of leagues in America and divisions are set by U.S. Soccer. And sorry, I'm getting detailed here on you, so just bear with me, people. But it's all semantics. So if a division meets certain requirements, they can be considered Division One. So nothing's necessarily holding NASL back from being Division One, except for kind of themselves and what they're willing to offer and to do. So I'd be curious to see if they were to implement a promotion relegation system and see how that actually panned out.
I think they would need to do it at the second and third division before they even include MLS to see how it works, obviously.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I don't think there's any, I don't see any way MLS is incorporated into a promotion relegation system. Just the way that the league operates, the way that they have sold franchises, and the way that investors buy in. I can't wrap my head around how in the world it would be financially beneficial for owners to accept that. So what I'm saying is they implement promotion relegation in NASL, which is currently Division 2, this new league, which I think they're calling the NISL, Division 3, and the NPSL, which is Division 4, institute promotion and relegation, but make NASL popular enough that it then becomes Division 1, because it's all semantics in American soccer. So it meets all the requirements to be Division 1, then NASL meets all the requirements to be Division 2, and then NPSL meets all the requirements to be Division 3, and then you basically have a rival league that's competing with MLS, and then you're going to force possibly integration at that point. And then that's kind of how I see all this panning out. That's the only way I see this possibly working. Okay. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I was talking to some of my friends about this yesterday, and they were saying how it would be very interesting to see how it's implemented in the U.S. and if it was successful, how. What?
That wasn't me. Continue.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said.
Nope.
They were saying that if it was successful, it'd be interesting to see how other sports reacted to it. And I can't imagine any other sport ever introducing promotion and relegation. I can't see it, but they were talking about the possibility of it and how it would get rid of the trust the process and teams just tanking. And I would love to see that, because I think that's ridiculous.
Theoretically, but then you're getting into the foundations of what leagues are built upon. And if anyone were to start a league today, it would not incorporate promotion and relegation. It doesn't make business sense to have a league with promotion and relegation. So if you are an owner, if you are a league trying to build something up, there's way too much risk and there's way too much loss potential with instituting promotion and relegation. So we're almost in this vacuum of, we're being compared to leagues that are 100 years old, from, with the English Premier League and a lot of European leagues, and even the more newer leagues, which, some leagues were started in the 70s and 80s. At that point, soccer and sports were still not mainstream. It's still not the big properties that they are today. And so promotion and relegation still made sense back then, because you needed to figure out, all right, which clubs actually did make sense. MLS started in the 90s and was built like a league that was modern. They have brands that they always know are going to be in the league. Those brands, and the league can sell those brands to customers and fans, because they know that they're always going to be there. And it's easier, and it's the reason MLS has been able to scale up to what it is today. If LA Galaxy were relegated after a couple of years because they were terrible in the beginning and in certain instances, where would MLS be? And so you can't risk kind of having that with a league built in modern times because you're being compared to leagues that have a 100-year head start.
Yeah, that's true.
So, okay. So that's my rant for this week. It's a really interesting topic. I'm really curious to see how all of this pans out. And so we're definitely going to be following it. The Ricardo Silva guy definitely has a funny story, definitely has an interesting angle. Funny story about him. I tried to buy a Miami FC scarf and it got lost in the mail. I was dealing with PayPal back and forth. I actually sent him an email 2 years ago, basically complaining and saying like I never got a scarf. I had no idea who he was at the time. I just knew he was president. And so he just sent me back like your money has been refunded. So I've had communications with this guy that's now being talked about, in all over American soccer. So that's my funny story for him. But he was able to refund me. So I guess he's a good business guy from that standpoint. Okay, with that, there's time for some music, but we're going to be right back with segment 2, where we talk about our fan futsal game this week. Stay with us.
Is your thing breaking up a lot?
No, mine's not. Yours is breaking up a little bit when you're talking to me.
I literally am having so much problems hearing you because it like just goes.
Okay. I mean, I'm not getting it on my end. What's your internet speed? Do you know?
We got the highest one.
Which is?
I don't know what the number is.
Okay, so maybe it's your router or something. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It was either the highest one or the one below it.
Okay.
Yeah, we decided at the end.
Okay. I'm not breaking up, but you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
So, but you're not breaking up too bad, I got to say. You've been a little slow on responding and been a little bit odd in some of your responses, but that makes sense now.
Okay. Like I can hear you perfectly fine right now. And it does it every once in a while, but it's been doing it.
Okay. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know until I watch the recording.
Okay.
All right. Ready for segment 2?
Yeah. I used to do it at home, though, so I think it's fine.
Okay. Welcome back, listeners, to our segment 2 here, and we're going to talk about our Bros Talking Soccer game on Fan Futsal from this past weekend, which was Liga MX in honor of the first matches for the Apertura in Liga MX. My developer, Melissa, came in first with 75 points, so congrats to her. Christian, you came first out of us brothers with 75 points. Matt came in 4th overall and second out of the brothers with 51 points, and that leaves me in last with 40 points, 5th overall. Christian, how'd you do it this week?
I'm just the best at soccer knowledge. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just the wisest of all the Knittel brothers, and I wish I could help you guys more, but I want to win, so I'm not going to tell you how to win. So yeah, I would say I'm not really an expert in the Mexican League, but clearly I just have that knack of knowing where to put teams to win games. Even though I got 0 points on 2 clubs, I still was able to thwart most of the people in this competition this week.
So you made one good selection.
And it paid off massively, did it not?
Yeah, it did. You didn't come in first, but you made one good selection and you made 2 or 3 other poor
everyone
selections.
I know, so that's all that matters to me.
Okay.
And I beat any Knittel that's on this list here.
Yes, you did.
Including Kristen Knittel. So what I did this week was I played the 2-2 formation. It's my real week go-to because I'm not a huge fan of using midfielders, and every time I do, I seem to struggle. So you get most points out of defenders and strikers if you place them correctly. So I chose not to try that risky midfield formation, and I threw 2 teams up front. One scored 0 goals. The other scored 5 and got me 33 points. Almost enough to beat the 2 of you already, so that was a goal there. My goalkeeper got 3 points because they lost 2-0, and with my other striker losing 2-0, I got 0. So 3 points out of those 2 isn't really what you're looking for, but made up for it with my defense. 13 points from each of them and 2 shutouts. I'm just shocked that all 5 games there was a shutout by at least one of the teams.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, are you like purposely not saying team names here? You're just naming.
I completely forgot about team names. Sorry.
It's all right.
So
It's all
my
right.
striker
No,
was it T
Tigres.
Tigres was though they won 5-0. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these names. I know Guadalajara.
Yep,
Chivas
Chivas.
Guadalajara.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that.
Monarcas, Tijuana,
Is
and Veracruz.
Mon-
Veracruz.
is it Monarcas? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Monarcas Morelia.
Okay. Club Tijuana, I do know that one, and they were not ideal for me this week, but Veracruz and keeper losing 2-0, not what you're looking for, and that's why I didn't say their names because they didn't deserve to be
Okay.
identified this.
All right. You didn't say Tigres either. All right. So that leaves me, we already said Matt came in fourth, 51 points. Leaves me in fifth with third out of the brothers, 40 points. I went with a 2-0-2 formation. So I had Club Tijuana at goalkeeper, similar to Christian with Veracruz. They lost 0-2, so only got me 3 points. That was not ideal. I only had one club actually win on my roster. That was Pumas with a 1-0 victory at defense. That was great. But then I had America at defense, and Melissa told me today that was not a smart decision. She's not a fan of them, so that I may have to rethink that strategy in the future. Also, Chivas, Guadalajara, had them at striker 0-0. Not what you want from a striker, not getting any goals. She also told me that their main striker got injured. So I should have been more on top of that and should have put them further back in my lineup. And lastly, I had Santos Laguna at striker. They were playing the newly promoted club, Lobos, and ended up tying 2-2, but at least got me 2 goals, so I'm comfortable with them at striker. Ultimately, undoing was America and Chivas and Tijuana. So got to do better next week. We are going to be doing MLS. So we're back to the American game, back to what I think we all know a little bit better, and so hopefully I'll do better, hopefully you do worse. So look for the Bros Talking Soccer game on fanfutsal.com. Join it, see if you can beat us. My username is dknits11, Christian's is cknittle12, and Matt's is mpk8110. Hope to see you in there. Talk some trash to us, send us messages. We love it all.
If you have advice, feel free to send me a message, and Dave and Matt included.
Yeah.
Contact me at any time.
There you go. Yeah. So if you need some advice, talk to Christian. He'll probably steer you in the wrong direction because that's kind of how he is.
Trying to win.
Yeah, got to do, Players go and play. All right. That concludes our fan futsal segment. So it is time for one more musical break, and we'll finish in segment 3. Stay with us.
I can't believe there was only one game where there were both teams scored. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. The Santos game. Yeah, Liga MX is so just like weird and like tough to predict. So yeah, that's always a toss up. What?
Should have gone for 3 at the back, clearly.
Yeah.
And just throw Tigres up front.
Yep. Yeah. Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
I still won.
Yes, you did. We'll see about this week. All right. You ready to do last segment here?
I'm ready.
Cool. Welcome back, listeners, and this is our final segment here. Let's jump right into our first topic and talk about FC Barcelona, who is partnering with Grande Sports World or Grande Sports World, don't know how exactly that's pronounced, in Arizona to open a residential soccer academy, soccer academy for boys and girls ages 12 to 19. Christian, do you think that this is just a marketing ploy by Barcelona, or do you think this is something more legit from a sporting soccer perspective?
U.S. has a huge market to attract here. I think it was number one, a marketing ploy, but there's a huge population size to draw from here that you can get so many athletes here. And if you raise them correctly, who knows what they could do? They could really find some diamonds in the rough over in America, really, that we haven't been seeing too often over the past couple of years. And it'd be great
Ever. Over the past couple of years, ever.
Well, I mean, past couple of years. Like past 250 years of America. Yeah. So I think it's going to be beneficial to them, but I think it'll also be beneficial to America as a national team, because if you're having teams raised correctly with correct academies who are training in what I consider the right way, you may not um, then we can only benefit from that.
So do you think it's going to be more beneficial? Let me phrase my question this way. Do you think it's going to be more beneficial for Barcelona for sporting purposes or marketing purposes? Barcelona.
Hmm. I think they're more marketing
I think
purposes.
I think so too. Just because the level that they're at in the sporting
I mean, they can
ecosystem.
draw anywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly. But I do agree that this can only help American soccer ecosystem. My biggest question or concern or just lack of understanding is how all of this fits into American soccer's weird ecosystem, because you have development academies which oftentimes are associated with MLS clubs, other times are not. And obviously if they're associated with MLS clubs, there's a pathway from the youth team through generally a PDL club, which is amateur status, and then maybe through a USL club, which is a second division team, and then ultimately to the first team. A lot of these other development academies, the kids go on to college. And is Barcelona really going to be wanting to churn players out for college? And so are they going to be selling them to other European teams? I just don't know how. Are they going to sell them to MLS teams? Like, and they can't, because in American soccer you can't sell youth players to teams. And so I just don't know how it's all going to fit.
Are they all going to be Barcelona players? Is that how it's going to be?
I believe so. So it's Barcelona's. Well,
So American,
but Barcelona can't sign kids outside of Barcelona before their 18th birthday.
so they're not going to be Barcelona.
I guess they'll be Barcelona affiliated, but they can't go to like the mothership until they're 18.
Well, they can if their parents agree to go, right?
They can if their parents move there for non-sporting purposes. So if the parents get a job, and this was a huge deal, and a lot of clubs were circumventing it, and that's why Barcelona, Madrid, both Madrids got into trouble with FIFA, because they were basically giving parents like jobs, and then like who had kids who were talented soccer players. And so it's a way to limit child trafficking types of things, which is, I know it sounds terrible, but like ultimately that's what it was. I mean, you have these kids that are 10, 11 years old moving across the world to go to an academy that you don't know how a player's going to turn out. And so ultimately, for the protection of the family and the kid, that's how it should be. The kid should be in his own area and not have to move across the world before they really know how he's going to turn out. Sorry, that took a weird turn. But yeah, so for me, I don't know. How do you see them fitting into the American ecosystem?
How do I see Barcelona fitting in?
Yeah, this academy. Like, do you think that they're going to put another rung on top of it, and maybe they start a USL club or something like that? Like, maybe
I
that's the
think,
only way I see this kind of playing out where it makes sense.
yeah, they're going to have, I feel like, maybe what they consider like U23 teams, like kind of something like that, where and Man City are kind of doing it through New York City. They're going to do that, I think, through maybe one of the teams in Arizona, and they're going to have to, and that's how they'll raise the players up. They'll be affiliated with someone, but their parent club is going to be Barcelona still.
So, do you think they'll partner with Phoenix Rising, which is the team in Arizona right now in the USL,
That
who Didier Drogba famously is an owner and plays for them, as is Diplo. He doesn't play for them, but is just an owner. Do you think that they become affiliated with them, or do you think that they start their own separate independent team, professional team? What do you think?
I think that they'll probably have to create their own just based off of who they are. And I can't imagine that with the owners who are there already, they would just be willing to let Barcelona take control.
At Phoenix Rising, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I ultimately see that playing out the same way. I think maybe in the interim, they leverage Phoenix Rising, or I think that's probably the closest club. RSL had an academy. So to give a little bit more background, this basically is Real Salt Lake's. Real Salt Lake had an Arizona academy because MLS is so weird and they allowed that. But they had a residential academy, and basically RSL is moving their academy back to Salt Lake because that's where they're from and that's where they should be. And so this basically left a void in this academy, and Barcelona is filling that void. So I think ultimately they will start a professional team, or I would be surprised if they don't. But maybe in the interim, they use Phoenix Rising. So that's
Yep.
how I see this shaking out.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be very similar to Manchester City and New York City.
Yep, I think that's kind of unfortunately that's probably how the system is gonna end up going globally for soccer. All right, let's keep the discussion going. Anyone following kind of soccer press recently probably has seen the Neymar to PSG rumors for a fee somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 million euros just for the transfer, and then Neymar's going to get a salary of something like 40 million euros per year, something like €500 million is how much the whole deal is going to cost. Christian, what do you make of these rumors from Neymar to PSG? Is this a good or bad move for his career if he makes it?
I think this is very smart from PSG. They need a player of that quality to take them to that next level if they really want to compete. They lost Ligue 1 for the first time in a lot of years this
Like
past
five
year,
years or something like that.
but Monaco have already gotten much weaker by losing five, I think, of their top players from last year. Mbappe looks like he just signed a 180 million deal with Real Madrid today, so that's a whole other problem.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
that's a
so if they're bringing in Neymar, this is really to announce themselves as a Champions League contender. And to be completely honest, I can't imagine Neymar winning a Ballon d'Or in Ligue 1. It's just not a prestigious league. A lot of people don't see it that way. And yes, he can bang in goals. He could do what Ibra did, but Ibra wasn't really considered the best player in the world either because that league is not considered the highest quality.
But is that because they didn't I think with Ibra they didn't even make it past the quarterfinals of Champions League. If Neymar takes them to a Champions League final and or wins them a Champions League, I think that changes the discussion. Do you agree?
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, like when Porto won it, no one on their team won the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah, but that was different. Neymar is arguably top three player in the world. I think unarguably top five player in the world. So he's already got that profile. If he bags 40 goals, knocks in 10 to 20 assists, and wins them a Champions League in addition to a domestic title, and who knows what happens with Brazil at the World Cup next year. I mean, I think so let's phrase it a different way. So with Barcelona, what is his ceiling, right? As far as stats and as far as recognition. So if Barcelona wins the Champions League, it's going to be him, Messi, and Suarez getting kind of all of the plaudits, most likely equally with Messi being weighted more favorably. Just the reality of the situation, right? And he could maybe hope for, I don't know, how many goals has he been getting? You're the Barca fan. Like, is is he even getting 30? Which I know is still a crazy number, but
He scores about between 30 and 35,
yeah.
probably.
Okay. So if he inflates those numbers up, because Liga, he's likely going to be playing against weaker opposition. So say he gets 40 plus goals and wins a Champions League in Ligue 1, like what would he have to do to win a Ballon d'Or with Barca?
I mean, his chances of winning the Ballon d'Or with Barca are lower because Messi is Messi, and I understand that. But Messi is also 30 years old now, and within, I would say, 3 years, him and Ronaldo are both going to kind of fade.
But Neymar's 25. It's not like Neymar's 21. Neymar's
Doing the math.
25. Yeah, but Neymar's 25. By that 3 year time period, he's 28, and he will have missed his window in soccer speaking terms. I know as crazy as that sounds, 28 is kind of on the back end of your peak, especially as an attacking player. And your peak is generally 24 to 28, and then you start trickling down. So he may win one or two, at 28 and 29, and then likely fall off. But if he moves and he takes them to somewhere that they've never been before at 26, 27, 28, then he maybe has a longer window. So I can see legit sporting reasons for him to move in addition to just the monetary reasons, which obviously speak for themselves.
I understand that he probably doesn't think he's going to win the Ballon d'Or at Barcelona within the next couple of years, and that's fair. But I don't think that his chances increase at PSG. That team is not as strong, and even if they bring in Neymar, I can't imagine they're going to win the Champions League. Ibrahimovic couldn't do it, and I understand they're not the same player, but Ibrahimovic is a freak of nature who just scores goals for fun. And I think the team was better when Ibra was there than it is currently. And even bringing in Neymar, yes, it will increase their effectiveness in front of goal, but I don't think they're going to be quite as strong as they were back a couple years ago.
But bringing in Neymar is a signal of intent. There's already rumors that them just rumored to be signing him are increasing sponsorship for the club. People want to be affiliated with him. That increases revenue. That also increases profile. And other players want to play with better players. So you bring in Neymar, then other players may stay. Maybe Blaise Matuidi stays. Maybe Marco Verratti stays. And maybe other big-time players want to come there because Neymar is there. You have additional sponsorship. So whatever the heck is going on with financial fair play, maybe they don't have to worry about that as much, because I still don't even understand. That used to be a thing, and now like I don't understand how any clubs are meeting those requirements with the fees kind of going on. But that's a separate topic for a different day. And so, but maybe bringing him back gives you more flexibility on a lot of different fronts, and not bringing him back, but bringing him there gives you a lot of more flexibility to improve that team and get them to a level that seriously can win the Champions League.
Yeah, but bringing him in versus maybe bringing in Alexis Sanchez if he doesn't go, do you think that's a big difference? I think Alexis Sanchez, I mean, yes, Neymar is slightly better and he's younger, but Alexis Sanchez could provide that moment too. But he's not going to.
Yeah, I totally agree. From a soccer player perspective, I don't see as much of a difference between those two players. But from a profile perspective, business and sign of intent, I think Neymar sends a much bigger message to sponsors and to other players and to other teams that we are serious than Alexis Sanchez does. It's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I just don't see Neymar going either. He doesn't seem like he's not really speaking up, and hearing from what the Barcelona players are saying, he has no intention of leaving, and obviously they're going to be skewed one way.
Yeah, but this is all a giant he said, she said situation.
I saw Coutinho agree to deal with Barcelona today. Liverpool haven't, but he agreed personal terms. So I think that is another situation where Coutinho is very close to Neymar. So why would he want to go there? He wants to go to play with Neymar because they're very close friends. And yeah, I know that's a step up, and he'd be playing for Barcelona, and he fits their system perfectly. And I don't want him to leave, but I think that is a big factor for him leaving.
That's interesting. Yeah, there may be ripple effects of that, but I don't think Barca buys Coutinho without selling Neymar. That's just I think Coutinho is
already struggling with finances, so I'd be shocked.
Exactly. So I think that's more of a backup option that they're negotiating in case Neymar actually leaves. I don't know. It'll be interesting to follow. We'll definitely keep on top of it and maybe talk about it in the future. But for time's sake, let's move on and talk about our last topic here, which is the African Cup of Nations, which recently voted to be moved from the winter months. So every 2 years, it's held in the middle of the European season. There's a huge issue from European clubs, and they're moving it from the winter months to the summer months. Tournament is also expanding from 16 to 24 teams, but it is still remaining every 2 years. Christian, do you think these changes are good or bad for the tournament?
Hugely beneficial for everybody involved here. I am so happy that it's not in the winter anymore. I was so sick of African players leaving the top European leagues. I think it's ridiculous. I think MLS has to get on the same schedule with everyone else as well. I don't understand this. I don't like how everything isn't equal. And I know you
live in America. You live in America. You've experienced the winter. It's not physically possible to do a schedule like that.
Yeah, it is.
But this is all right. But that's a different topic, so we can talk about that at a different time. So continue.
I mean, Russia does it.
They take a 4-month break. Do you want a 4-month break is basically what MLS takes as their off season. I would rather play an entire season continuously than take a 4-month break in the season and then have a summer break it doesn't make sense. Sorry, continue.
I mean, but it still would be matching other. Okay, fine, whatever. So I think it's hugely beneficial for these teams because they're playing on club teams who rely on them a lot of the times, like Yaya Toure, Sadio Mane, these players who are making huge impacts on their club teams, and Aubameyang, those types of guys who that when you lose them, it really affects you. And yeah, they're playing on international where out for their country where they were raised and where they feel close to. But it should not be at the same time, and you're missing your other priorities and your contract that you have. I think that it makes sense that it's in the summer when all the other international tournaments are. And I know it was split up and maybe they did it to get more views, but the African Cup of Nations is not well marketed over here. So maybe if they have it in the summer, they'll be able to get it on par with some of those other tournaments.
Okay, so the last thing addresses my question, but you were kind of more answering from the perspective of European clubs. Now, what about the perspective of the actual tournament? Like playing in the summer in Africa has got to be pretty brutal weather, and so the quality of soccer is going to suffer from that standpoint. Do you agree?
I mean, do we know that though? I feel like depending where you are.
Yeah, it depends on where you host it. Yeah, if it's in South Africa, if it's in South Africa or some of the other places, yeah.
The equator is in the middle of Africa, so it's winter on one part of it, and summer on the other. Going to be.
If it's close to the equator, it's going to be hot. I don't care what. I don't care if it's winter or summer. But yeah, I don't know. I think the other issue is there's only a limited number. What's that?
South Africa, it's winter when the World Cup of 2010.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is there's only a limited number of countries that could even legitimately host it, especially if it's expanding from 16 to 24. And I don't know where those countries lie in relation to the equator and in relation to the weather patterns, so to speak. So I don't know the answer.
World Cup, and they're building certain stadiums so that they can host that. Maybe they're going to have to do that for the African Cup of Nations.
That's a huge investment to make for just the African Cup of Nations. The World Cup's one thing. The African Cup of Nations is a very different thing. They shouldn't be building stadiums for that.
They're the same thing.
Just economically, that would be very idiotic. I don't have a better word.
Stadiums. You build maybe a couple of stadiums.
Yeah, sure. Just build a couple, $100 million. Yeah, sure. You just build a couple stadiums. Like, did you hear that?
Well, they have stadiums already, and you just add certain features to them.
Okay.
You add the air conditioning.
Are you serious? Air conditioning's not cheap, and the infrastructure is nowhere near what it is in a lot of other places, and they barely have funds for travel and for decent accommodations and for legit sort of training grounds. So just an investment in some of the things that you're talking about, I don't think is feasible or realistic. What I will say is that every 2 years I think is an issue. It's the same thing Gold Cup has. Make it every 4 years, make it more of a spectacle. And I think then you can sell it to fans and sell it to media and make it kind of a bigger deal. What do you think about that?
I'm going to be honest, you broke up completely. I didn't hear a word you said for the last minute.
All right. So with that, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about this topic or any others?
No, I don't believe so. How about you?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention two things. Dom Dwyer was just traded a couple hours ago, reported by Taylor Twellman from SKC, Sporting Kansas City, to Orlando for a record amount of allocation money, which is MLS's version of funny money. It could be upwards of $1.6 million of allocation money. The previous record was $650,000. So this is crazy, doubling the previous record, and so it's a kind of a blockbuster moment. So I just wanted to highlight that, and that's really fascinating. Lastly, wanted to call out our Twitch channel. We're streaming our FIFA games that we play for Fan Futsal, so it's the Fan Futsal Twitch channel. We'll put it on the link in the show notes, and also we have highlights up on our YouTube channel, so check that out. Bunch of goals, 30-second clips of some of our great goals. We also had an epic 6-6 championship match that went to penalties. Christian, unfortunately, was not there, but you can watch that video on YouTube. Ton of fun, and ultimately brought home the trophy. So that's what's most important. Christian, do you want to recap our trivia question?
What on earth were you talking about? I didn't even hear about this. I wasn't invited.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think it was when you were at work. I'm sorry.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Okay. So my trivia question this week is in relation to transfers because it is silly season, and it is of the top 20 transfers money-wise, top 20. How many different nations have been represented?
I'm going to say,
and you can also guess the nations were represented.
okay, I'm going to say 7. And I know France is on there for a fact because they're on there a couple of times. I'm going to say Portugal, obviously with Ronaldo, Brazil, England. I don't think Italy, maybe Germany. Whatever. I'll say Italy, and I need one more, Spain. So 7.
You said 7?
Yeah.
The top 20 or top 10?
Top 20. Okay, stop doing whatever that is. That's very loud.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I said 7, and I named the 7. So what's the answer?
Of the top 20, there is 11 different nations.
11. Jeez.
And of the top 10, there are 9 different ones.
Really?
Yeah.
So France is the only one that's twice, right? With Zidane and Pogba. Okay. Interesting. I got that way wrong.
They're number 1 and number 10.
Wow. I can't believe Zidane's still top 10 after, what is it, like 10, 15 years since he had that transfer?
Yeah, 2001? It's probably been 16 years.
Yeah, crazy. All right.
And you want to hear what they are?
Sure.
France, Wales, Portugal, Argentina,
Wales.
Brazil, Belgium, Uruguay, Colombia, Spain, Sweden, and England.
Sweden? Era?
Yeah, Era.
Oh, wow. I was way off. That is terrible. I'm disappointed in myself, so I'm going to hang my head in shame. Listeners.
Oh, also, Brazil had the most with 4.
Okay. Yeah, that was just poor showing from me. All right. I'll try to do better on the trivia question next week. With that, listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in. You can check links to all of the stories we discussed here today in our show notes. We'll also tweet them out from our Twitter handle, which is @BTSoccerPod. Our email, if you want to get in contact with us, is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Everything was brought to you by Fan Futsal, FANFUTSAL.com, working on a new feature for that. Excited to announce it probably in the next month or 2, so it should be really awesome. Very excited for that. Christian, thank you for talking with me this week and being here. Listener, thank you for spending some time with us. We'll talk to you next week. See you. All right. Sorry, the internet was wacky. Hopefully the recording is still okay. Listeners on YouTube, if you're watching.
Anything that you said at the end.
That's great.
Didn't hear a word.
All right. I'm hoping it's you and not me. Just like in any breakup, I'm hoping it's you, not me. And yeah. So listeners on YouTube, thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully the recording worked. If not, sad face. Bye.